In the 10th century, the world had an edge, a place where the map stopped and the sea gave way to a realm of ice, mist, and monsters. It was a horizon of absolute finality, a frozen wall at the end of everything, but to the Norsemen, a wall was not an end. It was a challenge. Long before satellites and Google Maps, there were men who stared into that unforgiving, frozen void and said, "Let's go that way." In a world carved by ice and fire, where saga meets survival, one man's story stands apart. He didn't just face the edge of the world, he sailed right off it, into the great unknown. He was a force of nature in human form, a man whose reputation was forged in conflict and whose legend was written on the waves. He was feared. He was fierce. And with nothing but a wooden ship, the stars, and sheer, stubborn will, he redrew the boundaries of that world. This is the epic tale of Erik the Red. He was an explorer, a settler, an outlaw, and quite possibly, the greatest marketing genius of the Viking Age. His story, like so many great sagas, begins not with glory and conquest, but with blood and with exile. Born Erik Thorvaldsson around 950 AD in the rugged fjords of Norway, he earned his famous name early. They called him Erik the Red, and while his flaming red hair and beard were certainly part of it, the name truly stuck because of the fiery, uncontrollable temper that burned just as brightly. It was a temper that would define his life, driving him from his home and ultimately pushing him toward a destiny no one could have ever imagined. In the 10th century, as Viking kings forged a unified Norway, Erik Thorvaldsson was born, better known as Erik the Red. The name wasn't just for his fiery hair and beard, it was a warning, a testament to a temper as volatile as a North Sea storm. He was a rebel whose spirit refused to be tamed by the new order of kings. Trouble was a family heirloom. His father, Thorvald Asvaldsson, was exiled from Norway for manslaughter. For men like Thorvald, there was one place to go: Iceland, a volcanic island on the edge of the known world, a haven for those fleeing Norwegian kings. They settled in the wild Hornstrandir region, but the family fury crossed the sea with them. Erik inherited more than his father's name. He inherited his capacity for rage. It wasn't long before Erik carved out his own legacy of conflict. According to the sagas, a dispute over property escalated, and Erik's response was swift and brutal. This was a world of honor, blood, and axes. The local assembly, the Thing, found Erik guilty, and the sentence was a familiar one: banishment. 3 years of outlawry. He was cast out, a man without a community or legal protection. But Erik the Red was not a man to accept defeat. He had heard old sailors' tales of a vast landmass to the west, cited nearly a century earlier by a mariner blown off course. For most, it was a ghost story. For an outlaw with nowhere else to turn, it was a chance. Where do you go when you're exiled from the edge of the world? You don't just find a new one. You sail off the map and create it. Sailing west into the unknown, Erik ventured beyond Iceland's coast. He wasn't the first. A Norseman named Gunnbjörn had glimpsed land decades earlier. But Erik went further. Through fog, icebergs, and near mutiny, he reached a mysterious white land.
We shall call it Greenland, for men will come more willingly if the land has a good name.
He found towering cliffs of ice, valleys cut by glaciers, and fjords cloaked in snow, but also life, game, fish, land for the taking, and Erik claimed it with fire in his eyes. He spent his exile mapping the coast, surviving harsh winters, and dreaming of a fresh start. After his exile ended, Erik returned to Iceland with tales of a land of plenty, a new start, free from feuds, and over 500 men and women believed him. In 985 AD, Erik led a fleet of 25 ships. Only 14 made it. It was dangerous, it was deadly, the rest lost to sea, storms, or worse. It was a high price. But Erik's colony was born, and Greenland was settled. Greenland wasn't all snow and smiles. Erik's life was still shaped by violence and law. He established his own estate at the very end of a deep fjord, naming it Brattahlid, meaning steep slope. This wasn't just a farm, it was the heart of the new colony, his stronghold, his throne in the snow. From here, he controlled the best pasture land, a sprawling network of turf-walled longhouses, barns, and workshops. Life was a constant cycle of tending to sheep and cattle, hunting seals and caribou, and preserving food for the long, dark winters. Brattahlid was the center of this new Norse world, and Erik was its undisputed center of gravity. Here, he ruled like a chieftain king, proud, fierce, and red as the devil, they said. His authority wasn't granted by a crown, but earned through wealth, reputation, and the loyalty of the families who had followed him across the treacherous ocean. He was the first among equals, the man everyone looked to for guidance and judgment. And judgment was often needed. Feuds broke out over land, livestock, and pride. The Norse had a complex legal system of local assemblies, or things, where disputes were meant to be settled with fines and arbitration. But, in this isolated land, old habits died hard. Honor was everything, and an insult could easily escalate into a blood feud. Erik had a temper, some say red like his hair. It seems his fury thawed for no man. When a neighbor Thorgest failed to return some borrowed benches, a minor dispute spiraled. Erik's men killed Thorgest's sons, and Thorgest retaliated. The sagas tell us Erik's fury was legendary. A neighbor insulted his honor, and the next day, had to walk with a limp, permanently. But he was also charismatic, respected, and cunning. He understood that brute force was a tool, not a foundation. He ruled not by force alone, but by forging alliances, hosting great feasts to display his generosity, and leading by example. He was the ultimate patriarch, a leader whose saga was now inextricably linked with the land he had named and claimed. Erik's most famous legacy wasn't a battle, it was his son. Leif Erikson, yes, that Leif, sailed further west and discovered Vinland, what we now call Newfoundland.
Father, I'm going to sail even further than you. Just don't call it really Greenland. That's taken.
Leif became the first known European to set foot in North America, and Erik, he almost joined the voyage, but legend says he fell off his horse and took it as a bad omen. Erik lives on in the sagas, half history, half legend. He's portrayed as fierce but funny, brutal yet brilliant. When Christianity came to Greenland, Erik refused to convert, not because of theology, but because he felt the old gods had been good to him. Loyalty, Viking style. Erik the Red died around 1003 AD, likely in Greenland, his adopted land. We don't know exactly when or how, but we know this: he changed maps. He built a society on the edge of the world, and he passed on the fire of exploration to his children. Some heroes conquer kingdoms. Erik the Red conquered the cold. And with just a name, he turned a frozen wasteland into a land of promise. No songs were sung in churches, but his saga lived on in whispers, in the wind-swept stones, and in his son's footsteps. From fire-haired outlaw to Arctic patriarch, his legend remains, not carved in marble, but in the frozen soil of Greenland and the sagas of the North. This was the story of Erik the Red, explorer, exile, empire builder. Thank you for watching. He named it Greenland, the savage saga of Erik the Red. Please like, share, and subscribe for more historical adventures.